Hey guys, it's Kyle down here at Lunacycle. Today I'm going to show you how to install the upgraded Luna float seat for the Talaria XXX. The first thing you want to do is remove the ignition plate. You need a 3mm wrench, and go ahead and remove all three of these screws, and then you will be unplugging the tail light. To unplug the tail light, put your fingernail underneath this little tab and it should unplug easily. Next, you will need to remove this bolt here, which has a 13mm nut on it. So use a 13mm socket and a 6mm hex to go ahead and remove this bolt. The next step is to remove all four of the subframe bolts. You use a 6mm hex tool and go ahead and remove all four of these, and then your seat will completely remove from the frame. Alright, once you've got the subframe removed from the bike, it is helpful to set the new seat just next to it. That way you can transfer the subframe, the light, and the little cover over without mixing anything up. So you do need several tools. You'll start with a Phillips head and remove these 4 Phillips screws on this cover. Next, you'll need to grab a 10mm socket and remove these 2 nuts right here. You can then remove the little reflector cover and set it aside. Since you already have the 10mm in your hand, go ahead and remove the 3 10mm nuts down at the back. Alright, you're not done yet. Up at the front, you do need to remove the 4 4mm bolts from this little support here. Alright, now before you pull any of this off, you may want to snap a photo with your phone just to see how this rear taillight wire is routed. You don't want to put it underneath the subframe here. It can get pinched and then your bike will not work if these 2 wires are shorting. So snap a photo, you can see it goes over the subframe here, then under the subframe and support here, and under the rest of the way. You'll see the little guides as we pull this apart. You do need to unscrew the light from this little light mount and then the little fender from the seat itself. So to do that, you got to remove these 2 little light bolts. And so you don't get too confused with all your screws, go ahead and transfer this one over right away. Then we can continue disassembling the old seat. The rear taillight wire has these little guides. Just carefully pull it out of these guides. And we can go ahead and pull this subframe off. Remember, the subframe kind of goes on top. And you have your seat support, but you can't put this on yet because you need to route the taillight. Alright, now you want to route the rear taillight wire. The Luna float seat has the same little wire guides. Go ahead and carefully get these into place. Now it's time to go ahead and pop our subframe into place. Now remember, this light wire goes on top here. And now we can then pop this into place. There is 2 little hooks here. The light pushes back into those. And we can reinstall the 2 little light bolts. Alright, Now before you tighten down the subframe, remember this little support goes underneath the subframe. Just like so. We're going to go ahead and put all of these nuts back into place, at least the bottom 3. The top 2 hold the cover. Now this one does come very close to the light wire, so just be careful not to pinch this light wire. Okay, now it's time to loosely reinstall the 4 bolts that hold this little support. You don't want to tighten these down until you're sure the light wire isn't going to get pinched. So the light wire gets routed over in this little channel on the side, and you want to be sure you can move that wire freely. Alright, so before we tighten those down, I want to be sure I can pull this wire freely. It's not going to get pinched when we tighten all this down. Because again, if you pinch this wire, your rear light won't work. And if it's shorting, it can cause your bike not to work. Now it's time to reinstall the little reflector cover. And finally, the 4 Phillips screws. Okay, now it's time to reinstall this on the bike. Alright, now it's time to reinstall the subframe with the new seat onto the bike. You want to go ahead and try to line up the 2 subframe bolts on either side. You do want to start by getting all 4 of these into place first, and then do the upper one last. So just loosely get all 4 of these into place. Now it's time to install the upper bolt and the nut. Remember, you can flex this upper part to line the hole up. Go ahead and begin by tightening down this upper one, and then we're going to go ahead and crank these down nice and tight. Do this on all 4 subframe bolts. And lastly, you're going to plug in that tail light and reinstall your little ignition cover. Alright guys, now that you've successfully installed the Luna upgraded float seat for the Talaria XXX, it's time to get out there and ride.